Woo, boy, it's going to be a fight to the finish for Game of the Year 2023. And the conversation have already begun, and people are fighting in these streets trying to determine whether or not Starfield, which is apparently the most polarizing game of the year, will it become, or does it have a chance, or does it deserve to be part of the conversation when we talk about Game of the Year 2023? For all intents and purposes, I do understand multiple sides of the argument. At the end of the video, I will give whether or not I believe it does deserve to be in the conversation of Game of the Year 2023. But I do find it very interesting what people use to say, hey, this game should or shouldn't be part of the conversation. Now, mind you, 2023 has had some fantastic games, right? Some of the highest rated Metacritic games that people are going to be playing for a very long time, experiences people have had that have been some of the best experiences in gaming. It's been a great year. In my opinion, it is even better than 2017, which was a fantastic year, and it produced two of my favorite games of all time now, Horizon Zero Dawn and Hellblade, which Hellblade was my Game of the Year 2017. I absolutely loved that game. Check the stats, baby, on PlayStation and Xbox. I finished the game because I absolutely love it, right? But I do want to go back and kind of dive into some of the previous years. So back in 2021, as we can see, It Takes Two was in the crop of this game. We have Deathloop, It Takes Two, Metroid Dread, Psychonauts 2, Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, and Resident Evil Village. Now, It Takes Two won it this year, right? Surprising a lot of people who haven't played the game, It Takes Two was fabulous. I got to play it with the Flow Hugger. We had a hell of a time playing this game. For some people will say this wasn't the best year in gaming, right? Even though they had Resi Village and Rift Apart, which were brand new games. A lot of people didn't take this, as seriously as other years, saying it wasn't probably the best year in gaming. I believe, I'm not going to search through this and pull this up, because I could be wrong, but I think I'm right. I believe It Takes Two was an 88 on Metacritic, and most of these games here landed somewhere in the 80s. I believe Ratchet and Clank was 88 on Metacritic. Resident Evil was 83, 84, something along that. So if you want people to say, hey, the highest Metacritic score should win in 2021, that was sort of the case with It Takes Two, because I believe It Takes Two, Ratchet and Clank, and maybe even Metroid Dread, they all had the same exact Metacritic score, but It Takes Two took the cake. Now, if we go into last year, we had A Plague's Tale, Elden Ring, God of War Ragnarok, Horizon Forbidden West, Stray, and Xenoblade Chronicles 3, which this was an amazing lineup of games, right? We know Elden Ring took the cake. I believe it had like a 97 on Metacritic. I could be wrong. Go look it up, because I reserve the right to be wrong. God of War Ragnarok was up there, 94, 95 on Metacritic. Horizon Forbidden West, I believe, was in the high 80s, maybe 88, 89. Stray was the ending darling of the show. I think it's somewhere in the high 80s, maybe low 90s for Stray. But Elden Ring took the cake, and just like the year prior to that, it was the highest score on Metacritic, right? So it kind of ties this thing all the way back to Starfield, right? And I got some games here that's going to be, I believe this is a Forbes list of games that are going to be likely nominated for Game of the Year 2023. The first one is The Legend of Zelda, Tears of a Kingdom. For a lot of people, this is their game of the year. They knew it even before it came out. This is somewhere in the 97, 98 on Metacritic. It's rated extremely high. It beat the DLC notion it was getting for the Breath of the Wild comparison between the two, saying Breath of the Wild in the sky. For a lot of people, this is their game of the year by far. You can't tell them nothing, whether they're a hardcore Nintendo fanboy, fangirl, whatever it might be. This is their game. You cannot tell them anything, okay? Baldur's Gate 3, in my opinion, is the consensus pick for most people who aren't in the console war space for Game of the Year, right? So out the rip, we got two games that Starfield's going to have to compete with, right? And again, we're talking about whether or not it should be nominated. It's just not a debate on whether or not Starfield is a good game, because I'm sorry, people who hate Xbox and hate anything that has to do with Bethesda and Xbox. Starfield is a good game, right? I believe it's at an 83 on Metacritic, and Metacritic is not the end all be all. I'm sorry. It is a good game. This video is not trying to debate whether or not it's a good game or not. In my opinion, it's a good game. It's all opinion based, right? At the end of the day, I believe Starfield is a good game, but this is about whether or not it should be nominated for Game of the Year, okay? So we're going to skip because we know what that is. Spider-Man 2 was just released, right? I believe it's at a 90, 91 on Metacritic. Spider-Man is probably one of the biggest IPs in gaming. It's one of the biggest IPs in the world. Everyone loves Spider-Man. Despite all the glitches and the bugs that have been reported and playing as a cube and having Miles have the wrong flag and he being headless and naked. It was just weird, right? But it still has a great chance to be nominated for the Game of the Year. Resident Evil 4 Remake, I don't believe so. I don't think remakes should be considered for Game of the Year. I'm sorry. Remakes, remasters, I'm sorry. Sequels and new IPs, that should be it. Sea of Stars, I think every year has to have their indie darling. Sea of Stars is the indie darling of this year. And it is a fantastic game. I haven't finished it yet. I have a problem finishing games here lately because there's so many games being released. It's ridiculous, right? But Sea of Stars is a really good game, and I do believe it's somewhere in the 90s. I do think it's going to make the list because it has to have an indie darling. Armored Core, I don't think should be there. Not that it's not saying it's a bad game. I just don't feel like it had the appeal to a lot of people to be considered there. And then we got games that aren't on this list right before we get to the Starfield. We got Alan Wake 2. Alan Wake 2, I believe, is in the 90s. It could be considered it could be considered to be in the running for Game of the Year nomination. But the big question is Starfield, right? And I know Starfield gets a lot of flack because it wasn't the 90 plus rated Metacritic game that people expected it to be. This game sort of got hurt on its own with the Game of the Generation talk, because that was the talk for a very long time. And I think this was even prior to Microsoft buying out ZeniMax, which is the parent company, was the parent company of Bethesda, right? With ZeniMax, it was being talked up as this is the Game of the Generation. It's this Fallout in space. It's this Bethesda's first big IP in 25 years. And I think for a lot of people, for a lot of Bethesda fans, this delivered. For a lot of non-Bethesda fans, it didn't really deliver for them. I think for a lot of console fanboys, it was better than what you're making it out to be. As far as if you are a I bleed blue, I bleed red, Xbox sucks, this game is not as bad as you're making it out to be. And if you're super I bleed green, maybe it was better than what you're portraying it to be, because it is, for a lot of people, the first quote-unquote good Xbox game in a very long time, even though I think Halo Infinite gets a more flack than what it should get now, because Halo 5 Infinite multiplayer is freaking fantastic. They need to do more with the story, but that's for another video, right? Y'all just let me know in the comment section, like, do you believe Starfield deserves to be nominated for Game of the Year? Because I'm going to be honest with you. I think it should be. I think it deserves to be in the conversation. I'm not saying it should win Game of the Year. That's not what I'm saying. Okay, I'm not saying that, because people are quick to put words in my mouth. I'm not saying it. What I'm saying is it deserves to be in the conversation, whether you like it or not, whether you fanboy or not. Whether or not you love or hate Xbox, you have to understand this game, it might not have been the highest on the Metacritic score, but it was polarizing in a lot of ways. It was in a lot of people's minds in a lot of ways. You can't just push aside the 10 million players played this game, right? I believe it went from 6 to 10, and that's between purchases and Xbox Game Pass. So we already know how many copies were sold, but we know for September it was the highest selling game. We know for a very long time it's one of the most played games on Steam. It's still one of the highest selling games on Xbox. So again, we can't really tell how much it sold because of Game Pass. Game Pass kind of skews things a little bit, because I'm be honest, why not play it on Game Pass? Because you get Starfield and a bunch of other amazing games, right? So I can see why people wouldn't purchase it. Some people like myself, I haven't bought a physical copy yet. I will buy a physical copy because I double dip. But I have it on Game Pass, but I bought the edition to be able to play the game 5 days earlier, because number one, I wanted to support something that, that I really was interested in playing. Plus, I get FOMO, right? I want to play it early. But let me know in the comment section, man, do you guys believe that Starfield should be nominated? I know the comment section is going to be filled with trash field, midfield, yada, yada, yada. The game is bad. This ain't about whether or not you think the game is good or bad. Well, maybe. I guess if we're talking about should it be nominated, you can say whether the game is good or bad. But let's be honest, okay? Let's be honest. If we're going by Metacritic score, a lot of you people loved Ghost of Tsushima, right? It's been revealed as people love that game. It got the same score as Starfield, right? So be careful using Metacritic to say a game is bad, and still, it's crazy how we're saying a game that's in the 80s is bad or mid or trash. That's wild to me. How it has to be 90 plus or bust for people when it comes to respecting a game and giving a game its due credit because of its Metacritic score. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed the video, please hit that like button and subscribe. Please consider becoming a channel member, as it helps us out a whole bunch, or become a member of our Patreon. But subscribing and liking is free 99. I will always be appreciative of that. Don't forget the game news from LV1Gaming.com. We got some dope stuff coming up, including our review of Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3. And if I'm a poke a hole and poke the bear, Xbox first party title, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3. I'm out. Peace.